My name is David Perrier, and I'm the CEO of Investigative Solutions Network, a private investigation firm headquartered out of Pickering, Ontario. I'm joined here today by the president of our firm, Sean Sparling, off to my left. On Monday, May the 28th, 2018, at approximately 11:30 p.m., 37-year-old Matthew Staikos was walking with a colleague in the Yorkville and Bay Street area just behind us when he was approached and fatally shot. The original 911 calls reported the sounds of gunshots and a man lying on the sidewalk. Sadly, Matthew was pronounced at the scene. Witnesses stated that the shooter exited from the passenger side of the silver gray four-door Mercedes before discharging a firearm. The suspect was described as male black, approximately 5'10", with a medium build. CCTV footage captured images of the vehicle as it fled south on Bay Street. Those images can be found on the Toronto Police website and on our YouTube channel at Investigative Solutions Network. At the time, this was Toronto's 36th homicide of 2018 and the 6th homicide in that week in the City of Toronto. ISN was retained by the Staikos family soon after Matthew's death to assist them with issues not directly related to the homicide. In 2020, the Staikos family requested that ISN begin making inquiries in an attempt to identify the person or persons responsible for Matthew's murder. To date, we have received tremendous cooperation from his family, from his friends, and from his business associates. Through our inquiries, we've gotten to know Matthew Staikos, and I can say emphatically, there is nothing in his past that would suggest or lead one to believe that he would become the victim of a homicide. He was loved by everybody, by his family and friends, as well as his business partners and associates. It's important for me to say that due to the circumstances of the death, which we are now investigating, we put Matthew's character under a microscope, and I could tell you that he was loved and he was admired by all who knew him, and that he was an upstanding member of the community. Defenseless, unarmed, and unprovoked, Matthew Staikos was the victim of a cold-blooded murder. Today, his family is offering a $250,000 reward for information leading to the identification, apprehension, and successful prosecution of those responsible for his murder. We know that at least one person, the driver of that silver Mercedes, knows who shot Matthew. We suspect that others in the community know as well. Anyone who has any information is asked to call the Toronto Police Homicide Squad at 416-808-7400 or anonymously to Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. You may also contact us directly at 1-866-790-4764. I'll now turn it over to Sean Sparling.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning, everybody. ISN has been able to assemble an exceptionally skilled team to investigate the homicide of Matthew Staikos. This is a homicide team that includes former homicide detectives, criminal profilers, financial crime experts, and police executives in a multidisciplinary approach to solve this crime. We feel that this is a very solvable crime. We're going to work continuously to solve this on behalf of the family. We're going to leave no stone unturned, and we'll bring it to a successful conclusion. We're offering this reward because we truly believe that we're one phone call away from solving this case. We truly believe that somebody in the community, such as Dave mentioned, the driver of the car, a family member of the shooter, an ex-girlfriend of the shooter, knows who did this, and we're asking them to come forward. Thank you, and we're happy to take your questions. Well, certainly the length of time is a factor. Sometimes memories fade, evidence is lost to time. But I think in this case, it could be helpful in the sense that relationships with the shooter, perhaps they've deteriorated since then, and that would cause somebody to come forward and want to speak to us. So although it's been a length that it has some detractors, like it impacts things, I think it can also help as well.
In the time that's gone by, is there a question?
Sure. Yeah.
In the time that's gone by, have you received any
Yes, there were tips that came into us during the course of our investigation. The investigation that we've undertaken has been fairly extensive. We've done a lot of work, interviewed quite a number of people, and we've taken quite a few investigative steps. So there's been a lot of information that we've looked through. His family continue to be devastated by this. They're very, very nice people. Just a typical family with great children. Matthew was loved by his family, and this continues to devastate them. We talked to them this morning, and they're really hoping for closure, and somebody in this community can help them have that closure. They're wonderful people who lost a son.
You mentioned that not long after they reached out to
It wasn't related to the murder, and that's really confidential information on behalf of the family. We're just not really willing to disclose that at this time. It had nothing to do with the homicide, and it's yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the criminal profilers that we use, the one that we have involved in this is Mr. Jim Van Allen. He's a former criminal profiler with the Ontario Provincial Police. And Jim has looked at the homicide for us from his discipline and is able to tell us what he thinks could be motivations for this crime. And through that, we develop investigative theories with his assistance. And he also helps us look at statements for their truth of their content and other investigative avenues. So it's a very valuable resource to have attached directly to a homicide team.
a very busy area.
Yeah. Well, certainly there's the one video that Toronto Police has released, was the video of the Mercedes. That is a key piece of evidence. I would encourage people to look at that video and see if they recognize the car. We've certainly worked on that piece of evidence, the capture of the car leaving the scene, and so the video is key. Right.
It's a pretty busy area.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who's around, what they see that.
Yeah, we were able to interview an individual that was with Matthew when he was murdered. He was actually with him walking down the street, and there was other people in proximity that we've interviewed. And we know of, like, for example, at the different establishments, there's people that actually saw Matthew on the ground after when he was killed. But we've been able to interview people that were immediately at the scene when the homicide happened.
Has anything
Absolutely. Yeah, certainly. That's where the description of the shooter comes from, and his mannerisms and how the event happened. So absolutely, that's key evidence.
in a case like this, when you offer a reward, how frequently do you get something?
I expect the reward's going to generate tips. Absolutely. And in our past experience, rewards can be valuable in providing those tips. So I do expect that we're going to see some results from it. Thank you. Anybody else?
One more time, just why this is very solvable?
It's very solvable because the shooter was seen, actually visually seen by people at the scene. We have the vehicle. We know there's a second person involved driving the car. So there's people that know who he is. This isn't a secret. There's people that know who this person is. That makes it solvable. And just about the passage of time, there's going to be a relationship in the background. Somebody's going to know something, and it's a very easy tip to pass along to the police or to us. So.
Anything else you'd like to add, Dave? Yeah.
Just in closing, I'd like to say a thank you to all of you on behalf of the family. They wanted to be here with you today, but they couldn't. It's still too emotional and very, very difficult for them to talk about just over 3 years later. But to give you an idea of the kind of people they are, of course they want to find out who murdered their son. But when I was talking to Mrs. Staikos earlier this morning, she said to me, but if we catch the person, that person is going to be yet another young man who's going to be taken away and devastating another family. So even in her grief, she's so kind to be considering even the family of the person responsible for the murder of her son. So we've gotten to know this family very well. Wonderful people, unfortunately grieving horribly still 3 years later, not knowing who did this. So we're asking somebody to make that call either to the Toronto Police or to us directly so that we can help get some resolution to this case. That's it for me, and I just want to thank you all for coming out today. Really appreciate it.
Can I get you to just say your name, spell it?
Absolutely, yeah. Sure. David Perry, Perry, CEO, Investigative Solutions Network, retired homicide investigator.
Sean Sparling, so Sean Sparling, SEAN, Sparling, SPARLING, and I'm the retired Deputy Chief, Sault Ste. Marie Police Service.